If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of The Property Rebel with your host Arsh. And in today's session, we're going to be talking about, have you planned to retire, or when do you plan to retire? It's a topic that not many people talk about because people always talk about getting into business. People always talk about doing well, and people always talk about what they want to do. But no one ever talks about what they're going to do when they retire, or more importantly, how are they going to retire? So before we start moving on, I want to say a quick hello to all new subscribers, all new listeners around the world. Hopefully you're enjoying the content. Hopefully you're enjoying the podcast. Please feel free to like and share. As always, this is a one-take recording. So if you hear some ifs, ums and ahs, and even some mistakes, don't worry, believe it or not, it's actually okay. It's the best way so you can see that it's real and it's not polished, and we talk it and we shoot from the hip. So today's session, how are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? What does that look like? So have you kind of created your retirement plan? Now, if you're working in a corporate world, there's a very good chance that you've got a pension plan with that company, or you've been putting money into a pension pot so that when you hit the retirement age, I think it's 65, maybe even 70 now, that you're going to have a steady level of income to live off when you retire. Now, but that's great. But if you're not in the corporate world, what are you going to do? Have you started to plan for your pension? Now, lots of people get involved in property thinking that when they retire, they're simply going to sell the property and use that money as their nest egg. Now, that is one way of looking at it. But my plan, or my question for you in this session is, have you actually planned for it? So I'm going to go through some of the things that I've done and the story behind why I've done it. So back in 2007, 2008, I think I've mentioned in previous episodes that I lost a lot of money with property development. And as a result, I decided that I never wanted to be in that position ever again. And so therefore, I started to plan for my future. So back then, back to 2007, 2008, I was pretty much like 95% of property investors who believe that interest only is the best way of getting mortgages. You know, let's face it, interest only mortgages, the payments are lower, the debt level remains the same, and we're all kind of, and I'm going to use this word kind of loosely, but we're all gambling. Gambling's a word. We're all gambling on the basis that we're hoping that the property values are going to increase over time. So, give me an example. Let's just imagine that I bought a property for £100,000. Now, based on the fact that I borrowed £75,000, which is 75% loan to value, that means that my mortgage is going to remain £75,000 based on an interest-only model. All I will be doing is paying the interest element to the mortgage company, and nothing is coming off the debt level. Now, I would like to think that over a 10, 15 or 20 year period, that property prices are going to increase. However, no one, and I say this bluntly, no one has a crystal ball. No one will know what's going to happen in the property market. No one's going to know what happens in the financial markets. So therefore, you are gambling. And I apologize if I've kind of insulted you, or if you've taken that negatively. It's not there to be negative. Hopefully this session is going to allow you to start rethinking about this. So back in 2007, I decided, 2008, I think it's in July 2007, I decided that I didn't want to gamble anymore. I gambled on property when I did property development. I lost a lot of money and I decided that gambling wasn't for me. I started to almost put myself in a sure bet situation. And so my property portfolio back then, it was pretty much quite highly geared, because when I originally borrowed on it, it was circa 75% loan to value. As a result of the market crash and the market dropping by 20 to 25%, I was now 100% geared. By gearing, I meant lending leverage. So now it was worth 100. I had 75,000 as a loan. As a result of the market dropping now by 25%, it was now only worth 75,000, and I had a loan of 75,000. Now that was quite scary, because I thought, okay, all that equity that I had has now been washed off. So what I started to do is I started to speak to my Lloyd's relationship manager, and I said, guys, okay, I don't want to be in this position again. So what we started to do is restructure our finance. We restructured all of our finance and our debt on a capital repayment mortgage basis. But before I did that, I sat down and had a chat with myself, or I started to think, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be in the next 20 years? Where do I want to be in the next 15 years? And I set myself a goal. I want to become completely debt-free, and I wanted to retire on my 45th birthday. I've always set that as a goal. So when I'm 45, the day that I wake up on my 45th birthday, the dream would be that I wake up and it's fully, completely debt-free. I don't owe a penny to any more or mortgage company. At the time of this recording, I'm 39 and 3/4. Anyone wants to send me a birthday present, please feel free to do so. It's on the 12th of November, and you can post it to 30 to 32 Chapel Ash, Wolverhampton, WV30TN. Little plug there for my birthday. Hopefully see some presents soon. So let's get moving on. So I set the goal. So that I want to retire on the 12th of November 2025, which is my 45th birthday. So I structured all my loans back in 2007, which is 18 years prior, to on the 11th of November 2025, which is a day before my 45th birthday. All my loans will go to zero, which means that I'm no longer gambling. It's almost a guarantee that if I just keep doing what I do and keep paying the mortgages without any defaults, make sure the income's coming in, paying off the debt, paying off the capital, paying off the interest, I'm in a win-win scenario. Now, if the property was worth £100,000 back then, if the property's dropped by 20% and it's now only worth 80,000, if I'm honest, it won't really bother me that much, because there's no debt against the property. However, if the property has increased in value and it's got up to 150,000, I'm actually quids in again. So I'm in a win-win situation. Like I said, I'm not gambling anymore. So I've structured all my debt so that on the 45th birthday, I'm completely debt-free, and that's the day that I retire. My wife says I'll never retire, and to be fair, I'll probably agree with that. I'll always get bored. You know, if I have a couple of days off, I'll get bored. I get, start thinking of things to do. So what I've said to her is that perhaps I'll probably take on some kind of consultancy role or do something. I'll always be involved somewhere. So I've created that structure there. But the next thing that I've done is that I haven't just relied on one source of income. The next thing that I've done is I've created multiple sources of income, and these are the things that you guys should be looking at. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Now, if Corona has taught us anything, or COVID-19 has taught us anything, is that anything can happen at any given time. So therefore, I want to make sure that I'm in a position where I'm not reliant on one source of income. How many landlords, how many investors did we see panic when COVID-19 kicked in? Now, I've got a multitude of different businesses. So I've got 13 different businesses. So yes, I've got my property portfolio. I own a group of letting agencies. I own a property maintenance company. I own a tenants on benefits platform. It's called DSS Move. I've got a housing benefit payment remittance service. We've got the sourcing business. We've got the property investor app. These are just some of the platforms, and they all pay in. So therefore, and what we use is that we use the profits from those companies to either A, buy more property, or B, pay down the debt on the existing portfolio. But we have that choice. If there's a really good deal that comes in, we know that we've got the cash reserves to buy it. We're not having to rely on other sources. So there's lots of avenues, and this is why I'm saying to you guys, it's all about multiple streams of income. It's about, you know, where it comes from, how frequently does it come in, how recession proof is it. Now, when I started Property Journey back in 2000, I started taking people on benefits. Now, some people might listen to this and think, well, I don't want to take people on benefits, but believe it or not, in COVID, it's probably the best thing ever. Because let's face it, without stigmatizing, and I say this in the lightest hearted possible way, for benefit tenants, it's like COVID is every day of the week. They wake up, they kind of don't do a fat lot, and they go back to sleep. So COVID, when I spoke to my tenants on benefits and said, guys, how you doing? They said, Arsh, another day at the office for me. I wake up, I sit around, I watch Jeremy Kyle. I appreciate that I'm stigmatizing here, and I say it in the lightest possible way. And then, you know, I'll go back to bed. The only thing that I can't do is go out the house. But you know what, to be fair, that doesn't really bother me. But our rent was paid. We were consistently being paid, where lots of other tenants were, you know, professional tenants were asking for payment holidays and they've lost their jobs and then become benefit tenants. It was great for me. I had no issue with it. And that's the honest truth. Now, with all the other businesses, yes, we saw some dips. So we saw some dips in terms of the sourcing of investors buying deals, but that was natural. But now we're back up again. But we always had a steady level of income. Now, the other thing that I've started to do, and this is a big one actually, is tax planning. Tax planning and ensuring that, you know, I know that at 45, I'm not going to want to, well, I've got options. Do I sell the properties? Do I let my daughters inherit it, or do I let my kids inherit it? Do I pass them on to them, or what? So I thought about this back in 2008, and I said, well, I want to do this where my daughters actually either take the properties on, and as a result of taking it on, they can only draw an income off it. They can't just go off and sell it and, you know, try and go and buy loads of handbags and shoes. And again, that's a generalization on females. And again, it's taken in the lightest possible way, not to be generous or anything like that. These are my disclaimers, by the way. I want them to draw an income. I don't want them to go off and sell it. And I want, if they need to sell it, they've got to justify to a trust as to why they need to sell it. So I'm trying to secure not only my future, I'm trying to secure their future. More important, so we're going to hand the properties over to them. We're going to do it where they don't get hit with inheritance tax. And if they were to sell it, that the capital gains is nominal or minimal. It's not avoidance, it's working within the government guidelines. So I've got three kind of accountants. I've got my day-to-day bookkeeper accountants. I've then got a property tax specialist. I've then got a tax specialist that looks over the group of companies to see where we are running as a group and seeing if we're being the best possible, the most efficient way possible. So these are the things that I look at when I'm working on my businesses. First of all, how do we make money? Second of all, how do we keep the money? How do we make sure that we're not just paying unnecessary taxes or too much tax or not enough tax? You know, I'm a big advocate that we pay our taxes because we utilise the services of this country, the NHS, and let's face it, they've been the heroes in COVID-19. So that's the next golden tip I'd say to you. If you haven't already done so, get your affairs in place. Get your life affairs in place. So making sure that you know what's happening with your business, making sure that you understand what's happening in terms of point of view that are you going to sell? How's that look from a CGT, capital gains tax point of view? Are you going to pass it on to your kids? How's that going to look from an inheritance point of view? How's it going to benefit your children? What they can and what they can't do. I've even put some clauses in there that they, if they don't need to sell, they can't sell, and then those properties will then be left to what in essence would be my grandchildren, if there are any. So I've looked at all these things. Now, on top of that, one of the things that not many people look at again is insurances. life insurance and life assurances. Now, when we talk about assurances, what assurance policies have you got in place to ensure that if anything happens to you or your partner, that everything is looked after? So I've got policies in place to ensure that something happens to me, that the policies will come in and wipe off all the mortgage debt, which means that we still go back to plan A, that they're going to inherit a debt-free portfolio. I've got life insurance policies to ensure that something happens to me. I've got medical insurance policies to ensure that everything kicks in if there's critical illnesses and everything like that. Yes, I appreciate with insurance, you're paying for something that you may never use. But in the world that we live today, there's a very good chance that something will happen. They say that 1 in 2 of us will actually get cancer. So we've got a 50% chance of that. So sorry, this sounds now quite scary when we talk about it, but COVID, we talk about all the other things that are happening around the world. It's more important than ever to ensure that you've got the right policies to cover you, your family, and ensure that if something happens to you, the people that you leave behind are fully protected. And then the other thing that I like to do is I like to invest in what I consider alternative investments. So I like to look at the stock market. And now stock market is gambling, admittedly, which kind of goes against what I said at the start. But if you do it correctly, it can be quite lucrative. So I don't do it myself personally. I've got fund managers that will look after the funds for me, and they do it in a manner they know what my parameters are. So I tell them that I want a certain level of return. I want a certain level of return. I don't want it to be too risky where it's going to cost me money. And we look at it on a year-by-year basis to see what's performed, what hasn't performed, where can we put more money, where should we withdraw money from, and we look at it from an angle. So not only have I got property income, I've got business income, I've got alternative income, and it's being protected by the policies that I've got in place. So hopefully you can kind of see the jigsaw here, everything's coming together. That's pretty much about it. So as you can see, by all the elements that I've got there, I've structured when I want to retire. What am I going to do when I retire? That's the part I haven't figured out yet. But I've got plenty of time for that. I've still got 5 years. Am I going to go and put on those stupid trousers and go and play golf every day? Am I going to start traveling the world? Well, I don't think I'll do that because my daughters will still be in their teenage years and they'll still be in school. And I want to make sure they get through GCSE and A levels before I decide to do anything like that. And the UK is the best place for the education for that. So I'll still remain in the UK. There was talks about us going abroad, but that won't happen initially. So what I do when I retire will still remain a mystery, and hopefully that will come to me. The more things I look at, the more opportunities that get presented to me. You never know, I might become a college lecturer. I may start to do some level of consultancy, and that's where I kind of see myself going. But we'll see, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Hopefully by that point, the Property Investor app will have become a worldwide product, and therefore I can just go to any country I wish and consult. That's what I'd love to do. So guys, hopefully you've enjoyed that session. Hopefully you've taken away lots of golden nuggets. Remember, plan, plan, plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it really is as simple as that. Plan, there's no such thing as too much planning. You plan for all kind of eventualities, and you'll reap the rewards for it when things happen. So guys, hopefully you've enjoyed that session, and as always, I'd like for you to connect with me further. So if you like free content, you want more content like this, please feel free to connect with me on YouTube. I've got hundreds of videos on YouTube, completely free for you to watch. All you got to do is go to YouTube and search for Arsh Ilahi. As well as that, if you want to connect with me on social media, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter and Instagram under Arsh Ilahi. Finally, I always say this, but if you haven't already downloaded the Property Investor app, why not? It's the best resource for you to find all kinds of property deals all over the UK. So below market value deals, rent-to-rent deals, lease option deals, you name it, they're all there. They're all in the palm of your hand. And the steps that you need to do to get involved are very simple. You can either go to the website www.propertyinvestorapp.co.uk, or if you've got a smartphone, if you've got Apple phone or Android phone, you go to the App Store and type in property investor. So if you're an Android user, you go to Google Play Store and type in property investor. You download it. It takes 2 minutes to register. You've got to put your email address and phone number in. You'll get a verification email, and you click that, and then you've got access to the site. You'll see over 200 deals there. So whether you're looking for your next deal or you may be just window shopping, and believe it or not, that's fine. So guys, if you like the thought of that, please download it. But on that note, I wish you every success. I hope that you stay safe and well, as always. And more importantly, if you want any information or you want to get in contact, please send me a message. You can email admin@arshilahi.com, and I look forward to trying working with you and connecting with you. Take care, guys, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.